and welcome to the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. It's been a while since I've done a solo episode, but there is a lot on my brain currently that felt important to talk about. The first thing that I'm going to chat about is something I didn't really expect that I would be talking about on the podcast, but it's something that, of course, we are all familiar with. It has been happening for a while now. It feels difficult to weigh in an opinion because I'm not directly affected by this, but it's in the news every day. People are talking about it civilly and uncivilly. It's gotten nowhere other than bad. Look, I'm setting it up in a weird way, but I just think let's just rip off the bandage. I think it is really important to use this platform to talk about things that I care about, and if I'm just going to be silent about it, then what's the point of having this platform, right? I think it is very important that we talk about the new Shrek movie, okay? You've seen the discourse, you've seen the fights, you've seen the controversy, and I am sick of sitting idly by, just letting this conversation happen without weighing in my opinion, all right? I don't expect to change your mind. You're probably a Shrek fundamentalist, and your mind seems unchangeable. But just hear me out, okay? The first Shrek film came out in the early 2000s. I was a kid. And I have very, very wonderful, fantastic memories of seeing that film. I believe I even saw it in theaters. I don't remember much about the theater experience, but I do remember, the fact that we got some Smash Mouth in there. All Star. What a great opening track. Then I saw her face. I'm a believer. That wasn't even Smash Mouth originally. I don't remember what the original artist is. The main thing is, what a fantastic, beautiful, wonderful score. Shrek 2, I would say on par with as good of a film. What a fantastic sequel. If you're going to do a sequel, that's how you do it. They did it right. What is it, DreamWorks? Oh, I just dropped my phone on my dog's head. That's how passionate I am about this discourse, okay? Shrek 2, great sequel. Shrek 3, I gotta be honest, I don't have a single memory of it. Shrek 4, it's very likely that I never saw it. But I now believe the next film is going to be Shrek 5, right? and the discourse around this has just gotten unacceptably heated. And I mentioned the fact that I saw the film as a kid to address the fact that, I have fond memories of it, but most of my experience with that film is literally just that. It's just a memory. I haven't seen it in years and years. Same thing with 2. And like I said, I don't think I remember anything from 3, and I definitely didn't see 4. But one of the beautiful things about those films were the animation style, right? And all the discourse lately has been about the updated, smooth animation style. And I gotta be honest, my instinct is to say I could not fucking care less about the updated graphics and animation style for the 5th installment in the Shrek series that has been going on for 2.5 decades at this point. But it appears that many do. And again, referencing the fact that I saw it when I was a kid, I feel is important to reiterate that it is a children's film. It is a children's series. That yes, we as millennials, elder millennials, maybe some Gen Z sparkled in there, maybe even Gen X, maybe you had a great time with that film. But the new Shrek is not for you. It's going to be targeted to children. So the fact that you, as a grown adult, are throwing a temper tantrum about the fact that Shrek's eyebrows look a little more well-refined, there's no hope, right? How are we to get to world peace if this is the kind of stuff that we choose to bicker about? I just thought that it was important that I say that, and again, that I use this platform for good, and I express myself. Shrek is for children, and the fact that you, as a grown adult, are throwing a tantrum about how it looks smoother than it did when you were a kid. Pick your battles, people. Okay, that was a fun bit. What did we spend? 6 minutes on that? That was pretty fun. Again, hello. My name is David J. Mund. I already fucked up my intro. I think I already did the intro, but let's do it again. Hello and welcome to the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. Thank you for listening to my Shrek talk. Speaking of movies, I just saw the film Opus. Shout out to my buddy Zach L'Italian, who I know is listening, who every time he calls me tries to do, he calls me by, and oftentimes will leave a voicemail, or I'll answer the phone and I'll say hello, and he'll do my intro, which you might think is flattering, but after 70 some odd episodes that he's listened to every single one of them, I believe, he still gets it wrong. What a shame. Anyways, he apparently has some sort of subscription service. He's a member of the A24 film collection, whatever. The main thing is he apparently gets into A24 films for cheap, reduced prices. He pays a membership, which I believe he's grandfathered into. I don't think that it exists anymore as a tier, but I think he said he pays like $5 or something like that a month, and then gets one free ticket to an A24 film on opening weekend, which is pretty sweet. A24 is obviously, if you don't know, is one of the fastest growing film studios that usually invests in horror, creepy, thriller type films. They did Midsommar. They did many other films that I'm struggling to come up with, but they did the film Opus, which, as a soft pitch, I'll kind of explain the high concept stuff, but I went with Emma Sheridan to see it, and we didn't want to know anything about it. Oh, just to put a cherry on top of the Zach thing, he is able to transfer those tickets. So he gave me his code that I then use at an AMC theater, which got me my ticket for free. So shout out, Zach L'Italian. Appreciate you. Love you, buddy. Anyway, so we went in to the film blind. I saw the log line of the film, but I immediately forgot it before going into the theater. So it was actually really fun. I have not gone to the theater to see a film that just came out in a long time. My last film that I went and saw in the theaters was the 10th anniversary re-release of Interstellar in IMAX, which, let me tell you, we're going to get into this in the future. We're going to get into this hopefully towards the end of the podcast if I can remember to do so. But I've talked about this for a while now. I do intend to start up Patreon exclusive episodes where you and I are given the task of watching a film. And then we talk about the film on the Patreon. So Patreon members will have a little film review, breakdown, conversation. You could submit your thoughts and I'll talk about them on the episode. I'm going to do the same thing with some artists about like their favorite albums. So I think the plan is when a guest comes on, we'll do the main episode or we'll do it in reverse order. I haven't decided yet. But we'll talk about the things that we intended to talk about, and then we'll have a separate Patreon episode where we talk about their favorite film. And I think, that gives listeners an opportunity to hear me ramble about more nonsense. Gives the guest something to talk about that isn't just like them talking about them, something that they're passionate about, something that they care about. And as I'll kind of get into a little bit with this Opus dialogue, it will give me an opportunity to get back to my roots of why I wanted to even have a camera in the first place, was to be a filmmaker. I have found myself feeling trapped in this, all I consume are short form videos, and my brain only works now in short form ideas, and many of those short form videos that you see are shot on their phone. It's not people like leaning into cinematography and lighting and writing. And watching a film re-inspires me to create in a way that I always wanted to create. There's been this conversation about is long-form content dying? Are films over? Are we not a movie theater-going species anymore? And let me tell you, there was only 6 of us at the Opus film. So maybe the latter part is true, that we're becoming less and less interested in going to the movie theater, which sucks because what a fantastic experience that is. But streaming has sort of not made it irrelevant, but made it unnecessary to do so. Let me sip on my Celsius. But anyways, so yeah, that's kind of the game plan for the Patreon, and I maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this the filmmaking thing. But anyways, went and saw Opus Blind with Emma Sheridan. It was, I would give it a maybe a 6 out of 10, maybe closer to like a 5.8 out of 10 as far as like movies go. It was well shot. They did a great job at like building the creepy suspension. I'm going to try to not spoil this, but going in blind was a really cool way to do this. I think it made the film, it made it a better experience because we knew that it was an A24 styled film, but didn't know anything about it. Long story short, there is a Elton John type character, just a big internationally famous superstar musician performer who is known as like, the world's greatest pop star or whatever. Everybody holds him in high regard, and he's been retired for decades. He's been retired for a while. And he is releasing his next and final album. And in order to soft launch the album, he invites some people from the press, some photographers, some reporters, which I guess are people from the press, but some influencers, to come to this. It's a resort, but it's like a again, without trying to spoil it, it's like a compound. And I maybe am going to spoil this a little bit because you kind of get this from the trailer, because I went and watched the trailer after we saw the film. But long story short, there's sort of a cultish following around this guy. And when all of these photographers and reporters and influencers get to the compound, they kind of realize that like everybody here is obsessed with this guy. And that's sort of, I guess, all I'm comfortable talking to you about. If you have any interest in seeing the film, please do so. It was a fun time. It was really exciting for me to find out that this pop star was played by John Malkovich. Because again, I had no idea what this thing was even about. No idea who was in it. And then to just run into John Malkovich as this eccentric pop star was pretty sweet. Creepy, unsettling thriller. Not jump scare horror, tension building. One thing I clocked in there as I was, because listen, I'm going to toot my own horn here. Ladies and gentlemen, I am such a well-hydrated individual. Might be one of the top hydrated people this side of the Mississippi. It's very important to me to remain hydrated, to drink water constantly. I don't drink soda. I do drink alcohol, but only at night and only a couple times a week. And I'm not getting drunk, just having a couple drinks. I don't need to justify this to you. Main thing is I hydrate. I stay hydrated. I'm a hydro homie. And that means sometimes I gotta pee, right? And I can't pause the film when I'm at the theater. So I gotta get up in the middle, go pee real fast, come back, having washed my hands in the interim. And then I have to do that like what I miss thing. You have to gauge if now is a good time to go. Like you have to like sort of understand beats of a film's arc and trajectory to know if this is an opportune time. And the best time to pee usually is right between, if a film is in 3 acts, it's right between acts 1 and 2, because act 1 has introduced you to the ick factor or the what you're getting into. And then by the end of Act 2, things are in full swing, and it's not really a great time to move because Act 3 is just all of the climax and the resolution, and if you go through any of that, you're gonna miss it. So right around the feeling of the end of Act 1, once you know what you're getting into. But my bladder doesn't work that way. I usually have to go at least twice. So you come back, you get the like, oh, what I missed thing. Emma breaks it down for me a little bit. And in that moment, I clocked something that is long gone in movies. And this was not a particularly long movie. It didn't even break 2 hours. But for a while, films were getting really, really, really long. Shout out Christopher Nolan for doing that. James Cameron for doing that. J.J. Abrams has had some long films. Quentin Tarantino makes some pretty long films as well. But anyways, what happened to the intermission? Not only was that like a great opportunity for everybody to like take a quick pause and go pee and whatever, but like it's a great money-making exercise for theaters to sell more. You get out, like I want to refill my popcorn, or somebody wants to refill their soda, or maybe I should have gotten that sweet treat. I should go get that now. You don't have to miss any of the movie. Now, I'm sure, or I have to assume, that the primary reason for intermissions no longer really being a part of the movie-going experience, which I believe they're actually part of the theater-going experience, like when you're going to see a live play or production or something like that. Intermissions are still pretty regular. But I just had a flashback to a play that I did where we did an intermission, which I actually just looked at pictures of the other day, and man, I was at my peak when I was almost 280 pounds. I was a big dude. If I can remember, maybe I'll splice in an image here. I might not remember, though. Anyway, Intermissions. Yeah, I have to imagine that the primary reason there is no longer intermissions in films is because the 10 to 15 minute intermission that they would have in the middle would be in two parts. You got to make a choice. Like, where are we splitting this? Because if we're doing it right in the middle, that sort of like breaks the tension of the experience. But also that kind of compounds, and after 5 or 6 intermissions in a given day, like you could have just played another showing of the film, which maybe more in box office sales gets you more, but the theater doesn't really make revenue off of ticket sales. That usually goes to the studios. Maybe they make like a fraction of a % off ticket sales, but usually that is going to, again, the production. But most of the sales come from like concessions. Most of a movie theater's revenue comes from concessions. Your popcorn, your drinks, your hot dogs, your pretzels, your candy, concessions. So whatever. A petition to bring back the intermission, at least for 2-hour plus films. Again, this was not a long movie. Usually I'm going to have to break the pee regardless. Even if it's a freaking half-hour film, I might have to take a quick pee break. And I think a lot of that is mental as well, where I'm like, don't pee. I can't pee. I want to watch the movie. We have to, don't. But then I psych myself into peeing. And then at a certain point, once it's on your brain, you're like, I got to go. Because I'm not like chugging water in a theater. If I'm bringing a drink, I usually don't want to go in and refill it. So I just get what I'm going to get, which is, I usually just bring my water bottle. So that it lasts me during the film. Anyways, petition to bring back the intermission. Yeah, it was a totally fine film. Nothing groundbreaking, but it did sort of re-inspire. It triggered something in my head to just it reminded me how badly I always wanted to do that. How badly I always wanted to make films. How badly I always wanted to act. And how much recently I've wanted to direct. I'm writing a few separate projects right now that I've been working on for years. One is a comedy, which I'm having a lot of fun with. I'm not as disciplined in my writing structure as it would require to make an outstanding film, or to make a film in any sort of timely fashion, which, whatever, those are externally imposed deadlines. I don't have an internally imposed deadline. I would love to see this script be completed at some point. And I'm getting there. At least I'm getting close to the first draft of it being done. But for years I've just been sitting on this idea and never really doing anything with it other than like writing a quick scene. But the way that I've written scenes in the past have been chronological, where it's like, okay, I have this idea that I want to build to. Let's write scene 1, then scene 2, then scene 3, then scene 4, then scene 5, then scene 6. And then at a certain point, I'm not having fun with it because like I want to get to the moment. I want to get to the big moment. And then I find how difficult it is to get to that big moment along the way in that order. And this is just a subjective take on writing. This is not the way it always is for all writers. But I have 3 separate dogs snoring incredibly loudly next to me. So apologies, because that's probably getting picked up. It probably isn't getting picked up. I say that often. But with this comedy sketch, or this comedy film, I gotta stop saying sketches because it's not a sketch. It's a film. It's a movie that would be shot digitally. Who am I kidding? It's not a film. But I'm calling them films because I want to consider myself a filmmaker. And in order to be a filmmaker, I got to make films. And films aren't film. They're digital. Most. They're still film. But anyways, recently I had a breakthrough on how to end the film. And again, when I have ideas for movies, it's like an idea that is the climax of the film, but I don't know how to end it. And I was struggling so hard with figuring out how to end it, especially writing it chronologically. So it's like, what am I even building to? Like, what is the foundation? What is the groundwork that I'm laying? Or what am I getting to in which I need to lay all the groundwork for? And I finally found the ending. So I have to imagine it will be less time between now and the end of my writing process than has been between now and when I started the writing process. Excuse me, because I had this idea in 2018. I wrote the first little chunks of dialogue in 2018. Guys, that was 7 years ago. That makes me want to puke. But yeah, that's just like part of the creative process. But seeing that film again, Opus, a totally fine piece of movie. Great fun. I had fun going to the movies. But I also walked out sort of inspired to, like, you know, time is fleeting. And yes, in the grand scheme of things, sure, I could be considered young. I've got time. But we're not guaranteed time. And if I want to make something, I have to not wait for it to... If I want to be a part of something grand, I have to not wait around for it to just come to me. I have to take some initiative. And if anything, that movie-going experience inspired me to take some initiative to get back out there and start making things. So I'm not trying to do this whole like big things coming or coming soon or stay tuned or whatever, because I don't have anything that I can present to you in this moment. But I would like to believe that I am becoming inspired to make something again. And yes, making a film takes a long time, takes a pretty decent budget. It takes a crew, it takes a cast, it takes a bunch of people creatively aligned and coordinated. But that can't happen without planting the seed of an idea. So yeah, Opus, 5.8 to at its highest 6.2 out of 10. But I got through high school with less of a passing grade. Now I was a super senior, but I don't know. That felt important to say. Totally fine experience. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a punk house, it's a punk home. You can find this banner and others like it, as well as this silly goose on the loose hat, these etched mirrors, these custom charm bracelets, and so much more by heading to Cat and Crew, that's KATANDCREW.com, and entering the promo code Monday, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Katie and Andrew, one of the first supporters of this show, have made a 10% discount available for A.D.H.Deep-Dive listeners. See store for details, of course, but they've got so many cool punk home products, decor. You don't have to be a punk. That's okay. That's all right. Tattoos for your home, koozies, wall banners, a hot sauce. Oh my God, keep your eyes peeled for that. So again, if you want this is not a punk house, this is a punk home banner. If you want this silly goose on a loose hat, if you want etched mirrors, if you want custom charm bracelets, so much more, go to Cat and Crew, KATANDCREW.com, enter the promo code Monday, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you very much to Katie and Andrew for sponsoring the show. Let's get back to the podcast. In a similar vein of things that I want to do that I have not been doing, after I wrap this podcast, which is going to have to be soon, it's going to be a relatively shorter episode. For the first time, I think ever, I have been asked to play drums for a live event. It's not like a show. It's basically just bar music. There's bar music. I don't want to oversell this. There's bar music that's happening. And I was asked to play drums for it. The only time I've ever been able to play drums in front of people is, in high school or in a band. And part of sort of that jack of all trades, master of none thing that I've talked about many times on this podcast is like the just sheer amount of things I want to do, the things I want to be. And one of those things is a drummer, a working drummer, a drummer who gets paid to drum because of their ability to drum. And yes, being in a band is an incredibly creatively rewarding experience. One that I'll never give up again. But it's just a different vein. Like, I have to wait for big shows to come along. I don't get paid to be in Midwest Guys, which is fine. All the money that we make in Midwest Guys goes back into Midwest Guys to promote Midwest Guys, which is what I want and what we should be doing. But like, there's always music happening that isn't a band. Like, you going to see a band. You go into a restaurant and there's music playing. You go to a wedding and sometimes there's a live band there. And that's something I want to be a part of. Or like, X person are, I as whatever, insert random person here who makes music, who doesn't have a band, who doesn't want to perform live, but just wants to like write and record music, but doesn't know how to drum or doesn't know how to program drums or whatever. Like, being pulled in to be like, hey, David, you're a good drummer. Could you drum on this project? Man, I've always wanted that. And so again, I'm not trying to oversell what tonight is. I'm just playing drums for a guy doing like an electric acoustic live performance that's happening in the background while people are drinking and having a good time. But what a start. Like, I'm being paid to do that tonight. It's the first time I will have ever made money off of playing the drums. I think it's important to reflect on the fact that that's cool. That feels like a milestone, even if it's not huge. Like, just like we talked about with the movies, like, you got to just plant the seed. A tree can't grow without tree things. So that's happening tonight. I do feel a little nervous. As again, a running theme in the show is imposter syndrome. The music isn't necessarily my cup of tea. I'll go over some of the songs here in just a second. And I haven't had enough time to rehearse. One of the bigger issues I have as an aspiring drummer is I don't have a place to practice on a full kit. Fortunately, Midwest Guys has a discography. And so when I show up, I know all the songs at this point. But I can't practice at home on a full kit. Yes, I can air drum or I can play on a practice pad or whatever, but it's a different experience. So with this live set, I haven't really had the opportunity to play everything other than just like listening to it millions of times, or air drumming it thousands of times, or playing on the practice pad, or hitting chairs and things stacked relatively the same height as the drum set would be hundreds of times. But it just doesn't feel like enough. So I'm a little nervous for that. And again, this is not the central focus of what the evening is. Hold on. Felt that coming. Excuse me. And it's not like things I've listened to much. All of these songs I know, other than one which I learned for in preparation of this thing. Let's just go over the set. So the set is And the only one I don't know is the first one I'll tell you. Into Your Arms by the Lemonheads. I didn't know that until I started listening to the live set that he gave me. I Melt With You by Modern English. So I'll stop the world and melt with you. The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. Take On Me by A.H.A. Burning Love by Elvis Presley. Creep by Radiohead. I'm Gonna Be by The Proclaimers. So it's I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more. That's been stuck in my head. Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. Breakfast at Tiffany's by Deep Blue Something. Runaway Train by Soul Asylum, which I don't even think that I will have a microphone. There's no need for me to have a microphone. Not only is the music not the central part of the evening, but I'm definitely not the central part of the evening. I'm going to try and draw as little attention to myself as possible, which is different than my normal day-to-day, usually being a narcissist where I want people to look at me. I'm going to try to be completely unknown. I am not here to do fills. I am not here to be like, damn, that's a good drummer. I am there to be a beat keeper. But for my Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans out there, Runaway Train is featured in a really funny scene in that show. So if I have the opportunity to say anything, which I don't think I want to begin with, I'm just going to be like, this one goes out to my It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans. Always Something There to Remind Me by Naked Eyes. Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith. And Wanted, Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. Again, all songs except for the one that I kind of know. Of course, I've heard for years and years. They're 80s music. Got some 70s in there. I don't remember when Elvis Presley was popping off, but got some Elvis Presley era songs. All of which, again, I know and have heard, but like I want to be correct in the way that I do it. Which again, if I'm just there to serve as a beat keeper, so be it. But I got to make sure that I know the beats of the song, the moments of the song where things slow down or pick back up or whatever. I can't just know the chorus. Got to know the bridge. I've got to know the transition between the verse and the bridge. So as soon as I end this podcast, I'm going to be rehearsing that set 2 or 3 more times. Anyways, just a cool, validating experience to have been asked to do this. Maybe I'll talk about who it was afterwards. It's not super important. For what it's worth at this time, it's just a guy who asked me to do it. Might be worth talking about it later obviously he's not listening here, but it's just not worth it to talk about who it is because I don't know if it'll be a recurring experience. I might blow it. At which he'll want nothing to do with me. So I probably just shouldn't say his name at this point. But if he goes, wow, you were really good, then I'll talk about it on the next episode. But yeah. So music is happening. Inspiration for creating films is happening. I had another note about something I should talk about here. And what would that note be? This is very authentic. I kind of already talked about this. Patreon content is going to be coming soon. I guess we'll touch on this one more time. I know I already said it, but the hope is after every episode, if it's a solo episode, I'll still do it by myself. But if it's an episode with a guest, the plan is to preemptively tell them, hey, what is your favorite movie? Or if it's a musician, an artist, what is your favorite album of all time? And then after the main episode, we will then follow that up with a half hour to 45 minutes, maybe an hour, talking about their favorite film or their favorite album or whatever, which gives them something to, again, authentically talk about, just something that they're hyped about, something that they enjoy, that they can talk endlessly about. But it also gives me homework to go watch more movies that I've never seen or that I have seen, but that now I can actually sit and study it. They'll come at it from like a fan's perspective. I'll come at it from an aspiring cinematographer or actor or director, and we can kind of like break down some of the best parts of the movie. The writing, the acting, the dialogue, the cinematography, the lighting, the pacing, and just the fandom built around it. And then the same thing with albums. It'll inspire me to listen to music that I wouldn't have otherwise listened to, or it will allow me to revisit some of my favorite things because now I get to live vicariously through another person that I'm talking with. So let me look right now so I can say this out loud. Patreon.com / Shit, guys, I don't know the name of my own Patreon because I've never done anything with it. Oh, wait, about? Let's look. It's probably /David.J.Mund, but I can't know that for certain. So I will go to an episode that I already have uploaded right now, and I'm also trying to somewhat stall as I look this up and just talk endlessly about it. And then we'll go to, we'll go to the description. Guys, I can't do it. Okay, fuck it. Whoops. Okay, so it is patreon.com /David.J.Mund. Which means there can be Patreon exclusive content that has nothing to do with the podcast. It could just be like, I think that this should go to the people who not only just support me with the views but support me with their dollars. I have no plans on introducing any tiers anytime soon. You can become a member for as little as $1. It's $1 a month. You can make one-time donations. So if that's something that you are interested in, supporting this channel in a new way to make it a little bit more sustainable, and B, to get exclusive content that you can listen to anytime. You can go back through and listen to old episodes. Patreon.com /David.J.Mund for undetermined title, but Patreon exclusive content where I review films and albums, maybe even television, maybe even episodes of television, with guests, sometimes on my own. I'll take listener submissions about things that I should watch or things that I should review and talk about. So for as little as $1 a month, you can become a member at patreon.com /David.J.Mund, or make a one-time donation of however much you would like. And then for what it's worth, a thing that I haven't talked about in a while that maybe I should talk about because I think it would help all of us. You can tap my link in the description to use my Upside referral code to get cash back on your purchases. You can click the link or use the promo code to get a $5 bonus the first time you make a purchase. I'm actually not 100% sure if the $5 thing is still consistent. That's what it was when I started this. But when you go to the gas station, if you use Upside and gas is $3, it tells you that you get 15 cents off a gallon. Now, you're still paying the $3 a gallon, but that 15 cents that you spend goes into a little savings account through Upside that you can then cash in. You can then turn it into a gift card, gift certificates, whatever, discounts at certain places. But I'll frequently pull from that and then put it into savings accounts for either just savings or gear investments or whatever. It adds up pretty quickly. And then you can use that link to send to somebody else. And then every single time that they use your code, you get 1 cent for every gallon that they spend. So for life. So it's a continual thing. It's an investment in the future. And if you use my code, you get a kickback. We both get a kickback. And then from there on, if somebody else uses your code, they can get a kickback as well, and you'll get a kickback from them. So this is probably the end of the episode, unless I can think of anything else that I should say. Patreon.com /David.J.Mund. Oh, yeah, freaking live show dates. April 4th, Midwest Guys is playing with Twice Machina and Bring Your Best in Bay City at O'Hare's at O'Hare's in Bay City. Then the one that I'm insanely excited for, not that I'm not excited for all these other ones, but the one that like, this might be my opus, magnum opus. Midwest Skies, Keep Flying, and Save Ferris at the Pyramid Scheme in Grand Rapids on April 27th. That one's going to be insane. I imagine that's going to be packed. That's going to be freaking my crowd. The elder millennials who want a two-step. I love playing at the Pyramid Scheme when I was a little kid. Not a little kid. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I always said, if I've played at the Pyramid Scheme, I've made it. And this will be the third time that I get to play the Pyramid Scheme. Now, we're not headlining, so I'm not trying to say that, like, we did it. But I feel like I did it. I did the thing that I wanted to do, that I said I always wanted to do, and now I've done it a few times. I love the Pyramid Scheme. I'm very grateful for Keep Flying for helping us get on that show. I think we earned it by asking. If you don't ask, you won't receive. But also they give us a little push, and I appreciate it. And Save Ferris, they're legends. So it's gonna be a great show. And then May 30th at Turnstiles in Grand Rapids, we're playing with Smile Darling and Beach Glass, good friends of ours, Matt Grotus and Melissa Dillon, formerly known as the Melissa Dillon Band, now Smile Darling. Beach Glass is my buddy Matt Grotus's band. And then my buddy George, friend of the show, did the artwork for that, which I think I'll talk to him about in a future episode. But I'm really glad that I asked him to do the flyer artwork for that. A, because I think he's a very creative, talented guy that doesn't get the opportunities that he deserves to make art and show it to people. But very quickly, as soon as the artwork was published, I've gotten personal feedback about like, whoa, that artwork is so cool, that I've been able to then forward to him. So I don't know if he needs the validation, but I'm sure it's nice. So if you see the artwork for the May 30th show at the Pyramid Scheme, the May 30th show at Turnstiles in Grand Rapids with Melissa Dillon, Smile Darling, Beach Glass, and Midwest Skies, just know that at the Big Bad George, that would be George Despotis, made the artwork for that show. So one more time, April 4th at O'Hare's in Bay City. April 27th, which is the one I'd really love for you to come to. I'd love for you to come to all these. I have physical tickets for this one, so if you want to come to that show, it helps us if you buy tickets in advance. So let me know. We can get you a ticket. I believe it's $20 for a ticket to that one. It very well might sell out. That'll be a packed house. So please hit me up if you're interested in tickets to that. And then May 30th at Turnstiles in Grand Rapids with Beach Glass and Smile Darling. Use my Upside referral code for cashback rewards. I'm going to finish up this podcast and rehearse over and over again all these songs that I'm really scared to play, which should be totally fine. It'll go totally fine. I'll do great. I've worked hard. Patreon.com/DavidJMund. Become a member for future Patreon exclusive content where we do movie reviews and album reviews. Go to catandcrew.com, enter the promo code Monday, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Go to MidwestSkiesRock.com to get some merch. We got the Look Who's Laughing Now, Nobody Somehow shirts. We've got the Come Back For Me hats and beanies and tees and sweaters, and yeah. I think I'm in a good place right now in this moment. Look, always that's subject to change. I've got a fragile brain with an even more fragile ego. But in this moment, I'm feeling pretty okay. I'm doing things creatively. Money is always a stressor, so that's a problem. But I'm working on it. And that's the best you can do, right? So thank you very much for listening to the A.D.H. Deep Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. I love you. And I'll see you next time.